Welcome to Green Building Matters, the podcast that matters for green building professionals. Learn insight in green buildings as we interview today's experts in LEED and WELL. We'll learn from their career paths, war stories, and all things green, because green building matters. And now our host, and yes, he has every LEED and WELL credential. Here's Charlie Cicchetti.
Be sure to check out the Green Building Matters community, where you can have unlimited exam prep for any of the professional credential exams you're tackling next, as well as putting your continuing education on autopilot, saving time with GBS reporting your hours on your behalf. Check it out, gbes.com/join. Now, enjoy this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I love interviewing green building professionals, some from all over the world. Today, we have a recently minted LEED fellow from Athens, Greece. We've got Charalampos. How you doing today?
Hi, Charlie. I'm fine. Thanks for the invitation. It's really great to be here with you today.
Well, you know, I've not been to Athens, Greece yet. You've already convinced me I need to come soon. We are recording this in the middle of the pandemic, but hey, man, I'm going to be there soon. But tell us a little more about your background. So where did you grow up and where did you go to school?
Actually, I was born in Athens, so I've grown up here in Athens. I've lived the majority of my life here in Athens. I studied actually architecture. I'm an architect originally, but then I moved to London, UK, to do my master's degrees in environmental design and engineering. So my sustainability approach started there in London, UK, thanks to my master's studies. And it was then when I completed my studies and started working in London for Aedas Architects, a global architectural firm, as the sustainability coordinator for the London office. So I've been actually doing professional sustainability for the whole of my professional life. I've never done anything else.
Now, when you were studying and getting those advanced degrees, was it all about BREEAM and BREEAM, or was it just green buildings? Like, what was the curriculum like?
Originally, you mean at the master's? Yeah, at the study, yes. It was not related to any particular rating system. It was merely about sustainability, energy efficiency, and the topics around that. So we were not involved at that time in any particular sustainability benchmarking system.
Okay. Now, I'm always curious. Okay, so then you got that position, and it was sustainability. So, you know, was it focused more on some of those early projects you worked on, some of those early clients? Was it energy efficiency, or, you know, at that time, were clients wanting to get a plaque to validate, hey, we did this the right way? So when did the certification start coming into play?
Eric, I would say that certification thing started quite early enough, because actually during my first involvement, when I was sustainability coordinator at this London office, we were involved. I was actually part of the project teams of certain projects actually that were being developed in the UAE, and were at the same time pursuing LEED certification. So that was actually originally the first time that I came across LEED. And also sometimes BREEAM, because I was also involved in some UK projects for which actually BREEAM certification was mandatory. So it was at that point actually when I realized that it's really good to talk about sustainability, but it's even better when you can actually prove in a transparent way that your building is sustainable. And certifications have actually succeeded in that to that end. Proving people, so that your audience, the result of sustainability in a very transparent way.
Oh, thank you. I'm always curious, because these are great rating systems, great tools that you've used, I've used, and they've helped our careers. So looking back on your career, you know, architect, and you did some consulting, and now I want to learn more about your firm. You know, did you have any mentors, or did you have anyone that really you looked up to along the way?
So I wouldn't say, however, that I had any particular mentor toward this approach.
Okay, so connect some of the dots. You're in London, you were practicing, but you're in sustainability. And what brought you back to Athens, Greece?
Yes, okay. Or to be honest, I came back to Greece quite accidentally. I wanted actually to try and get an opportunity to implement sustainability in Greece. That was actually around 2010. Sustainability was, I would say, an unknown word in Greece at that time. And at that time, it was actually when the Greek drama was actually starting. I mean, the deep recession, the deep economic recession. So and it was... Although it seems quite strange, it was actually the perfect timing to talk about sustainability at that very hard time in Greece, because actually it was the point when the real estate sector was actually started to collapse. And when we talk about collapse, we talk about the entire collapse, almost 95% collapse. So people, and especially the most prominent key players of the real estate sector who wanted to be differentiated, actually were very easily convinced to invest in sustainability and invest in doing sustainable projects. And this sounds quite controversial, but it was a very good timing for us to talk about sustainability with them. So I started my own business at that time in Greece, dealing with sustainability in real estate and primarily doing LEED certification for prominent projects in the country.
Amazing. I love entrepreneurship. I love sustainability. So tell us about DCarbon and your consulting firm there. Tell us a little more about, the projects you work on, some of the clients, some of the team that you've grown.
Yes. Actually, we are sustainability consultants. We're not designers. We're not contractors doing simply sustainability consulting. Primarily, people know us for doing LEED. So we're doing this kind of project management work for our clients and whatever involves actually overlooking the LEED implementation during the whole project phase, including design and construction. Besides that, we are also doing supplementary services related to that kind of certification, such as energy modeling, life cycle analysis, and daylight modeling. Recently, also, we started actually doing sustainability on a greater scale, on a portfolio basis. And this actually methodologies like GRESB have helped us a lot towards that direction. But we are also have started also looking at sustainability from a different aspect, which is closely related to the product manufacturers aspect. So we help manufacturers of products, of construction products, to improve actually the way they manufacture their products so that those can be eligible to comply with the requirements that LEED and BREEAM and also WELL may set.
That's you've really chased some opportunities there with how green is your portfolio to LEED and BREEAM and some others. So now, can you tell us a couple of projects that you and your team have had a lot of fun working on in the region?
Yes, I would say that we have been involved in the vast majority of the projects that actually are pursuing such processes. So far we have been involved in every single first project in its category, the first gold, the first public, the first platinum, the first V4. Also, we are very proud because we have actually delivered the first LEED version for EBOM data center in the world, as well as the first LEED version for data center in Europe, Middle East, and Asia region. And actually, currently we are running 3 mega projects in Greece, which are designed by Renzo Piano Building Workshop, and there are 3 new healthcare facilities, not in Athens, in regional Greece. So we are really happy for these projects. And we have also got a new assignment, which is really great for our team. We are very happy about that. It's actually a new airport, which is going to be in Crete Island, and it's going to be the second biggest airport in Greece, pursuing LEED certification.
That's amazing. Oh, these are great projects. I can tell that you made the right choice to come back to Athens, take that leap of faith, and work on some really cool projects. So looking back on your green building career, what are some other highlights that really stand out? What are some things you're really proud of?
I would say one of the things that I'm really proud of is actually our involvement in one of the very first projects we've ever done. And that is actually a kindergarten. That was literally also the first LEED Platinum project in Greece. But actually, it was really, really important to see that our involvement there actually created the opportunity for people, for very young people, the children that were going to the kindergarten, to actually come into contact with the real sustainability, so that actually they can be really effective in the way they are going to live, and they are going actually to use their environment. And that was really important, and we're really proud of that, because actually we saw that this building is actually a teaching tool for people, for young people.
That's such a cool project. Now, those very meaningful for the community projects, and getting those young kids exposed to sustainability is important. And now, LEED Fellow status here. Tell us what that has meant to you.
LEED Fellow. Well, I'm very happy. I'm excited that actually I have been accepted as a LEED Fellow, because I think that after 10 years of involvement in the green building industry, this is an honor for me, because I feel that people, from the US Green Building Council have recognized my personal commitment to the green building industry, because, we've done quite, I would say, very hard work in Greece during the last 10 years. As I told you, Greece has actually recently come out of a very hard decade. So we've done a lot of work towards sustainability and convincing people why sustainability is important. And besides that, actually, we've managed to not only to convince clients, but also to educate people. And this is even more important, because during these processes, we've managed to educate designers and also contractors towards a more sustainable approach of designing and constructing buildings. And this is really important.
Oh, very, very important. And so I'm trying to see what's next. Okay. I love asking my podcast guests, Charalampos, what are you studying now? What do you think we should be prepared for? What's coming around the corner in the green building movement?
Well, that's a really good question. Although none of us, I think, can be really sure about what's coming next. But of course, the obvious answer is that we can see the evolution of the health issues, of course. This is something that was well known within the green building industry, but has been very apparent due to the pandemic outbreak, of course. So we can see also a connection of, the economics of green buildings, which has become more apparent nowadays. People are becoming less suspicious about why doing that green, because usually we can see that the baseline is now green, and people are looking actually for what's next. So they are looking for even higher standards than simply doing, for example, LEED. LEED has been taken for granted so far, especially for, the most prominent part of the real estate sector. So people now are looking for the next levels. So I think that health is one of the biggest challenges for the future.
No, I agree with everything you've said. And, what about health? What about healthy buildings? It was already really warming up over the last 3, 4, 5 years with WELL and FitWell. And, maybe you could argue that BREEAM had some of this already, but tell us what's happening now in your region. Is it important to get a certification that, yes, this is a healthy building, or is it still more about best practices, not just a green building, but a healthy building? How's that going where you are?
Yeah, it's a tough, actually, discussion so far, because I think that this discussion is even harder than simply doing sustainability, because it goes even harder, to the core of the businesses. It's not about the project development. It's not about technical specifications only. It's about talking to the HR departments, for example, of large companies who occupy buildings, because they are the ones who need to really understand the importance and the return of such an investment to their economics. And what is even more challenging is actually to, when trying to connect in the dots of this discussion, to persuade them in economical terms. So they really need to understand how they are going to get their money back. And this is a very hard discussion because it's really, usually the connection between actually investing and features that will make the building healthier is not really directly converted into payback period. So there is an indirect connection which has to become very clear, and people have become to feel very safe about the money they are going to invest towards this direction. And this is a very tough question. People need to be very well educated, need to be persuaded, they need actually to be given certain incentives. And I would say from my experience that these incentives have to come from the banking institutions. So the lenders, people need to actually to be able to get, let's say, cheaper money for their investments because of the fact that these buildings are equipped with center characteristics.
Yeah, no, you're right. The business case too.
Yes.
Should just do it for the right reasons, but sometimes the business case, it's going to help everything move faster.
Exactly.
Let's talk projects again in your region, because I think you do work all over Europe. Is what might make LEED? We've got a lot of listeners on the podcast that are, LEED professionals. What makes LEED maybe a little harder to do in your region, or has that become a little easier to do these days? So tell us, are there any difficulties applying the LEED rating system in your area?
Well, to me, actually, I can't say that LEED is difficult. Actually, what is the success? What is the key for a successful LEED is actually to engage the process as early as possible. So, because we've seen that the most beneficial decisions for the project are those which are made early enough, and actually those who are really made early enough will require minimal resources. So I would say it's not a matter of resources; it's actually a matter of of approach. So because the earlier you engage the project on such a process, the easier this process is going to be. And I would say that actually, thanks to the fact that local legislation is becoming even stricter and people also are becoming more educated, the material procurement and manufacturer are becoming also more familiar with the processes, we can see that actually any additional capital expenditure related to LEED processes is becoming also, is becoming even more marginal. So it's simply a matter of process and not of cost. My personal experience also shows that once someone is seriously interested in doing LEED, they will do it in any case. They will try, they will manage, they will find a way to absorb any additional costs into their budget, and they are really happy with that.
Yeah, that's good to hear that it's doable. Sometimes we need to show the business case, and there are some VIP clients saying we are going to do it, whatever it takes. We know it's important. So let's talk a little more about you. What do you think is your specialty or gift?
That's a really hard question because I don't. I can't really talk about.
If you were asking your colleagues at DCarbon, what would they say you're really good at?
Well, okay, I'm really good at taking very crazy decisions. I think usually I'm actually deciding and making certain proposals to clients for things we've never done before. So it's really good that we constantly, we're having projects where we are doing something for the first time in the region. This is something, we started with LEED, we started with LEED EBOM, we started with LEED for, certain categories, such as data centers, LEED for healthcare. And then actually last year we decided to go for sites for the first time in Europe. So we are now actually dealing with a project pursuing site certification for the very first time, not just in Greece, but in Europe. And also we started doing the first well projects in Greece. So actually I'm not afraid of doing things for the very first time in the region. This is, I would say, one of my specialties.
It sounds like you might agree with who better to do that than us. And if the answer is, this is close to what we do, we need to try that new rating system, try that new program, and hopefully you have projects and clients that are like, yeah, we need to.
Yes.
So we're going to learn together. But, we know we have a relationship with the U.S. Green Building Council and GBCI, and we we can get through this together. So yeah, who better to do that?
And I also forgotten to talk about ParkSmart. We are also doing the first ParkSmart here in the region. So everything that the GBCI launches, we are going to test them.
I love it. Then you have that case study, and you can apply it. Should we do it on future projects? So that's great. Well, tell us, do you have any routines or rituals or just good habits?
Yeah, I would say that the only routine I have is actually that I don't have a routine. And by saying that, actually, what I'm meaning is actually, when we're talking about projects, which is actually related to the majority of our everyday life, I would say that we don't have any kind of routine because every single project needs a very customized approach. We can't really, although we have been involved in approximately 60 or 70 projects, I can tell you for sure that every single project requires a very customized approach in order to get a successful result. Usually we treat projects like people who are going to the doctor. So you can't really give them the same approach. You have to talk with people involved in the project, understand their needs, and then create a very customized approach, which is tailor-made for their needs.
Very thorough, and I can tell you to really go for it. So let's talk a bucket list. Obviously now it's a little harder to travel and sometimes adventure, but is there something on your bucket list? Maybe travel, adventure, just another accomplishment that's important to you. Can you share one or two things?
Yeah, okay. It's really what is in our bucket list is actually to be engaged in international project teams, so that we can have the opportunity to travel a lot for workshops. Of course, this is quite hard nowadays due to the COVID outbreak. But of course, this is something we try to get the opportunity to travel a lot, even for business, not just for vacation.
Okay, we tie the travel and the business together. I personally love to do that too. Last year, I was able to take my wife to Stockholm, to Sweden. The Sweden Green Building Council asked me to come do a 2-day workshop, and it was just amazing. So yes, I love that.
Yes, that's why also, it's really a pity that we didn't manage to travel to California this year for the Green Building, but hopefully next year we'll be able to do that in person.
I think we will. Well, tell us one destination, though. What's one place you've got to get to in the future? You just really are curious.
Yeah. Ideally, actually, although I've been quite several times in the US, I've never been able to visit the West Coast. So ideally, would like to go to California and land actually to San Francisco. And then after spending some days in San Francisco, getting a car and driving to LA. This is one of my next destinations.
That's a good bucket list item. Drive down the Pacific Coast Highway where the Pacific Ocean's right there below you. And that is a great drive.
But if, as an alternative to that, if for any reason I'm not able to go there, I will definitely head for a safari in Namibia.
Okay, that's a good backup plan. Let's talk about books you would recommend. And it doesn't even have to be about green buildings, but is there a book you would recommend?
Yeah, okay. Although, unfortunately, I'm obsessed with books about green building industry. Recently, I had the chance to read a book written by Naomi Klein, and This Changes Everything, Capitalism versus the Climate. And actually, this is a very provocative book because Naomi Klein there addresses in the current era of the capitalist issue that actually this cannot really be compatible with the climate change, because actually the current standard, the current way of living actually results in the climate change. So however, this is something that we need to find the optimal balance between the way we live and climate change, because it can be both well balanced.
That's good. That's good perspective. All right. Well, as we start to come to a close, two final questions. One is there anything you wish you'd done earlier in your career?
Yes, okay. That's a really good question. And actually, this is somehow related to the mentorship thing. So what actually I would have changed, actually, I think that it's really good for us. It's really good for all people to understand that usually, we feel that we're having burdens around us, but actually our only true limitation, the boundary we must continue to push against harder and harder is our own inability to believe that we can create real and lasting change. And this is something I think this is really important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. Well, let's say there's someone listening to our podcast, our conversation here, and they're new to the green building movement. What words of encouragement do you have for them?
Yeah, okay. I think that judging from my personal experience when I started doing this job, dealing with sustainability, sometimes you feel that all this topic is chaotic, and you might be afraid that you are not going to actually to implement or to influence people. But what is really, really important is to understand that we need simply to take very small steps at a time, which altogether are going to create an impact, which is going to be obvious after some time. We don't have to be anxious about that, but simply actually taking small steps, and those are going to create real and lasting change in the very end.
Wow. It doesn't have to be chaotic. Take small steps. I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to our conversation here.
Simply start doing that. Yes. Simply start, bits and bytes of the process, and you are going to find, to see the big picture later on. But don't be afraid of that. Usually it seems, and sometimes it might be chaotic, but don't be afraid of that.
All kinds of good wisdom there. Thank you for your time. I hope everyone's really enjoyed listening to our conversation here. Everyone connect, please, online. Enjoy the podcast, and please share it. Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At gbes.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.